Welcome to episode 23 of the Mirandus Farmer's Almanac. I'm your host, Xana, and co-hosting with me is Wolfie the Wolfenite, Las Vegas Lance, and feared pirate, Captain Nero. This episode, we cover the breweries. From beers to rum, we try to uncover and predict the secrets these buildings will do within the world of Mirandus. What kind of things can happen when our exemplars consume these delicious beverages? What challenges and gamifications might we expect when owning and maintaining these buildings? From planning to economics and logistics, we try to speculate some of the possibilities, topped off with some general Mirandus Gala talk. With that, let's listen in. All right.
So they both the jeweler and the potion shop both have the stand for the 5x5 edition. Although it's considered a higher rarity building.
Right. Well, but I mean, there's just the two. I think there's not a 10 by 20, or is there a 10 by 20 jeweler?
Yeah.
I forget.
Both the large jeweler and the large potion shop are 10 by 20.
Okay, so just the three. Yeah, the three levels.
Yep, and the large is like unlike most large buildings, the large jeweler and the large potion shop are both legendary rarity.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, let's get started.
Yeah, sure.
So, we're talking breweries this round. Try to go through all these buildings. I'm trying to go through all these buildings, but we'll see how far we get with them. I don't really know. But we only know about three buildings: the cemetery, taverns, and the stables. Am I missing one? Is there one they shed light on at all yet?
I think that's it. I think
Yeah.
we're still lacking a lot of info, but I think it's partly the crypto winter, and I think it's partly the economy, and partly they're still figuring a lot of stuff out.
No. The building.
So Gala's and Miranda's business model is built on secrecy as well. So
Sure. That's why I started doing these. I'm like, let's just try to uncover the secrets, right? And figure out what they want to do with these stuff.
Or at least rampant speculation.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, if anybody listens to this, it's
Speculation's
all
great.
speculation, right? It's all So, I guess to start with breweries, this is all, I'm going to transition over. This is all we know about them, right? And I've never really read the breweries before. I just assume that, what the 10 by 10 says is the brewers here take pride in making their mead and ale, right? So breweries make mead and ale or beer or whatever. But I was putting this little clip together real quick, and I read the large brewery, and the mead and ale produced here are stored in fine oak casks and a mainstay of all quantity taverns. I had to look up mainstay. What does mainstay mean?
Always, man. It's always there.
Right. Well, it was a pillar or a backbone, and an example was a farm is a mainstay to a rural community's economy. So you could say a brewery is the backbone of all quality taverns. So if you have a large tavern or one of the larger taverns, it sounds like a large brewery is necessary to serve there.
Yeah, I don't know that I think it's interesting. I disagree a little bit. I think it kind of go the other way. I think McCarthy doesn't want to penalize, so I think you definitely want one if you have a large tavern, but there's a lot more large taverns than there are large breweries.
Well, is there a difference between a large tavern and a quality large tavern?
Ooh.
sure, the building level based off of how much you've upgraded.
Yeah, it's having that large brewery there or access to those oak casks or whatever going to that tavern make that tavern more desirable to go there and drink your ale. Mind you, when these, it's funny because when all these buildings were made, it's they got to piece all these puzzles together, right? So all these descriptions are super old. And example of that was somebody posted the large inns and how it was a thing large inns is just inns are for sleep. McCarthy's inns are for sleeping, taverns are where you get your food. And somebody posted a large inn, you can get food and sleep here. And then McCarthy was oh, I need to make a note of that.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah,
you
you
know,
do.
subject to change. So I guess you can always
Yeah.
prepare for, you know, it's what works best for the game and be prepared for these subjects to change. So I don't know if these descriptions will hold up as always. And then they're trying to piece all these buildings together. It's like, so far we got the stables, the taverns, and the cemeteries. Those are the pieces they put together for the game so far. They know how they're going to work in the game. So
Yeah, I'll throw this out though. I think it's interesting. I think these are the two that they released, and there's nothing bigger than a 10 by 20, nothing smaller than a 10 by 10, and that was by design. I think I understand what you're saying. I agree, things are going to change, but I do think if we go back to when these were released, McCarthy had a vision in his mind of how these will interact with each other and why we need this many. At least at that point, the vision's going to change, but he started somewhere. I don't think it was random.
I don't know.
And
I don't.
also, I want to make a point that because we know that any crafting can be completed with Materium, so the breweries aren't going to be necessary for a tavern, only to help it become profitable. I would say.
Or
Because
to get the finest casks and the finest ales and the finest meads, you know. Now what is
I think all
and
of that will be able to be created through magic, right? Like even the like any crafting material, any crafting can be completed with the Materium if you don't have the sufficient ingredients. And if you don't have hops that have been brewed, but you want ale, then you should be able to put Materium into your glass, and boom, you have a good ale. Uh, and it's going to be more expensive that way to provide it that way. You're going to have to charge more as a tavern because you were using Materium literally to do this, rather than using maybe a little bit of Materium to trade with a brewer, and both of you are profitable. And it just makes it so you can create those same ales that you got the ingredients from the brewer from. That you just didn't have to create it with your own Materium, which makes it significantly cheaper, or you be able to sell it for significantly less to make a profit.
I don't think they're going to allow that. I disagree.
Really?
I think at the crafting, if you're making beer, you have to do it at a brewery or a large brewery. I mean, I think you'll be able to use the Materium, like you said, at the brewery or at the weapon shop or whatever crafting station you may be at. But I don't believe that. I think that's part of the economy. If you want beer, you got to go to a brewery. You can't make it without a brewery.
I've just
So
been
you don't
noticing that
need,
there's some they use Materium as like an alternative to using the standard way of doing things, like transportation, for example. Like I want everybody to be able to use a ship. Please use ships. But now we can teleport items with enough Materium, you know. And if that's the case, it's an avenue that's outside of the way that it could be standardly done.
Yeah, I don't think
doesn't
I still think the teleportation stuff is a pipe dream. I don't know that that's been verified at all. I think it's being entertained at best at this point.
so
That's my
Materium can
opinion.
shortcut stuff?
McCarthy has
Essentially,
said
it's
that.
magic.
Well, but McCarthy has said every time he's talked about it, it's been of us being able to craft a specific item, be it a sword or whatever. And if you're missing some of the items, you can use Materium to complete the recipe. I still think if you're making a sword, you have to be at a weapon stand of some level, be it a weapon
Look,
shop, a grand, or whatever. You can't make a sword out in the woods on your own with
agreed.
Materium. And so I think beer is going to be the same way. If you want beer or mead, you have to get it from a brewery or a large brewery.
Oh,
So
I see what you're saying. I see
if
what
you
you're
got a
saying.
if you've got a tavern, you better make nice with the brewer.
Mhm. Yeah, the tavern itself won't have the crafting table or recipes in order to create ales or beers. That'll strictly be from the breweries. So a brewery may not have all the ingredients to create the ale, but they could certainly create it out of Materium and then trade it out to the taverns.
Or maybe they make a really, really weak beer, but the finest ales are made at the brewery, and then you get
Yeah, just
into,
an
well,
updated
okay,
list of crafting recipes.
yeah, and then you get into the, well, okay, what will beer do for us if I go drink it,
Well, let's
or if
start.
I go drink it in the tavern?
Let's start with that. We'll get into the gamification of the buildings themselves. But all right, let's start with So, hey, Wolfie, you don't own a brewery, do you?
I do.
You do?
Oh no, not a brewery. I own a tavern. Sorry.
Okay. So Lance, you're the only one here with a brewery, right?
Yeah, I
I
don't have
think so.
one.
I guess.
You got one, Cap?
Were breweries sold in
No, I
store or
don't.
were
I
they
don't have
dropped?
one.
Okay.
No
So
breweries for me.
what do
I
you
drink
hope?
at the tavern.
What are you hoping the breweries are doing here for
Um,
Lance?
I'll be honest. Um, I'm a type A personality, so as I found Mirandus and was lucky enough to acquire the deeds that I got, one of my goals was to try to be as self-sufficient as I could be.
Okay. So you have
And
a
so
plethora of buildings.
I have a variety, a smattering. Um,
A splash.
and I can't help it. I mean, I'm happy to let everybody know I'm a retired federal law enforcement officer. I carried a badge for 27 years, so I'm used to kind of being in charge. So it's like
Cool.
I don't like to fly in planes because I'm not in the cockpit. Not that I know how, but I just feel like I got to be in control.
We'll add that Lance is one of our moderators in the Gala Discord.
Yes, and I'm a moderator too. So, but listen,
And
and
I'm
for
a
the record,
pirate.
other than scammers, blatant scammers, I rarely ban anybody and have rarely banned anybody in the over a year that I've been doing this as a moderator. So
And
I
every
try to be
time he did, he was drunk off a brewery ale.
my finest homebrew.
Nice.
No, I try to be the voice of reason, but I knew that because McCarthy included the brewery in there. And again, I didn't have to look too long to go, okay, there's just 10 by 10s and there's 10 by 20s. This is special in McCarthy's little world and vision. I need one of these. So that was now past where it goes. That's some really interesting ways that can go with what was the idea that was posted in Discord.
All right. So with all that, trying to figure out what these brews do then. Do you have any? So this is what we do now. All right, mead and ale. That's what they make. All right, that's all we got. And then McCarthy mentioned that to have the hot meal is required to have this either the mead or the
Rum.
ale or rum, right? Well, you can get into it. Well, we can get into gamification of like what all these buildings can do. But as for what the brew itself can do, I like the idea of like all these buildings, even the stables, the taverns, they seem like they have multiple functionalities. So the taverns like where you get your hot meals to replenish yourself, and then there's games there too, and there's like two use cases to that. The stables is like it's a store, it's a breeding grounds, and it's what else is it, Woofy? Store, breeding grounds, and it does something else. Oh,
I think
storage.
they're gonna have a.
Storage
Oh
for your
yeah,
horse.
but I think they're also gonna have some type of mini game with it too. When
Yeah,
in the last tavern games, you saw the stables. It was gonna be
yeah,
like
that's the kickoff to start breeding horses so we can
I was
have
gonna
more horses into the system.
say that's the Mirandus Horse Hump Fest.
Oh no,
Yeah.
there was racing. There was racing involved in there somewhere. But anyways, having the what would be a double use case for breweries? Well, one is like the taverns will need them, so the taverns are going to require them. We talk about buffs, and you don't want to take away from the potions, right? You can't have brews and different ales, whatever, take in replacement of what potions should be doing. So my idea for what would be cool would be like a health boost. So it'd be like, you have your health bar, typical game. I don't know what they're going to use, like a bubble or flask or whatever to represent your health. What if drinking this brew based on your level of how well you can craft your mastery, that takes that 100% of health and it increases it maybe to 125% health for like a time limit, 4 hours, 8 hours, whatever, when you consume it by itself, or even with the hot meal, like based on whatever you get different levels of hot meal then. But if you understand what I'm saying, I thought like either that or with energy. I don't know. When I drink a lot of beer, I feel like I have more stamina. I don't know.
I think
Or more
well, and
energy.
I think you hit on it, Zana. I think as opposed to the health, but for the reason you started with, that it would intrude too much upon the potion stands. I think the stamina makes perfect sense. That no, you're hanging out and you have, let's say you get that high-end mead, the really good stuff. And I think mead's going to be more rare and scarce. And I've got some ideas versus the beer. But it gives you that 125% for a duration stamina boost. I could definitely see that. And that could have tremendous utility if it's, hey, I got to go travel now. I got a 2-day travel here. I need to boost my stamina as much as possible. And maybe you can do that with high-end beer or mead on the road as well.
Having a variety of different drinks available would be, I think, the best way to do it too, because there's so many different things you could do. Yeah, increase your maximum HP for a duration. Maybe you can complement potions by making it so you increase the amount of healing you receive from all sources
Oh
for
yeah,
so long.
that's a great idea. A booster to
So
potions.
right.
Are they
So
talking about
or any other healing things,
Well, yeah, I think it's interesting to go past and beyond the obvious synergies of, okay, I read like the large brewery and it's the casks of the finest quality. Okay, we need a wood shop here too to help make those
Yep.
casks. That's the obvious synergy there. But then you get into the, well, yeah, but if I drink the beer, maybe in the tavern, and I'm out on the road and drink the health potion, then there's those synergistic things beyond what you would expect to go, whoa, that's really cool.
Well, we need the
And
beekeeper still as well, and even to touch the
well,
meat, you need that honey.
well, see, I tend to think, and this is just my 2 cents based on nothing but my rampant speculation. I think you're going to be able to grow all the ingredients for beer and to be able to make it in the brewery. I think we're going to have to find
farming plot?
hunt. I think we're going to have to find wild honey. I think that's a way to make it maybe more rare and to add another element of utility to it, to have an adventurer out that finds it and then brings it back to the brewer.
I like that
Something
idea.
along those lines.
Yeah.
Your rum just needs sugarcane, right?
Well,
Glasses.
but I also go back to McCarthy, and I think Captain and I have talked about this when he said you guys should think 15th century, so the 1400s. Cap and I quickly looked and goes, cannon. Are we gonna have cannon on Captain's boats?
Yep.
But also I think McCarthy has a lot of inspiration from the Viking and Northern Europe culture, and back in the 1400s, it was water, milk, of various kinds of dairy milk, but beer and mead. Wine was
Spirits
large.
too,
They
yeah.
couldn't. Well, no, not even then that much at the time. I
Really?
mean, for the masses,
Mhm.
I mean, the first beer law I think on the books was in Bavaria in 1487, Bavarian beer law. So
Somebody check him. Check
you
that
know,
information.
Listen, I don't even know what I don't even know what mead is. What's mead?
mead
The
is
honey brew.
it's based it's
Yeah,
honey
the honey
brew.
base. Yeah.
It's made with honey. Yeah,
Gotcha.
it's fermented honey.
And if we're doing
So
the rum side, you got to have decomposing animals inside your pit, pretty much, that's
Elves.
being cooked
Elves.
along with
Decomposing
your
elves
cane.
constantly. That's the best kind of rum.
yeah. Now I could see them opening up possibly to, so at the same time, like I said, in France and Italy, in the southern areas where they could grow grapes, they were still doing the wine and had been for centuries. So I could see maybe like McCarthy during the horses mentioned the Isle of Ice. Maybe we'll have a summer area or a more Mediterranean-like area where, oh, now we can introduce grapes. But I think that may be down the road, definitely not the initial release.
Sure. I mean, we
What
probably
about,
ain't
like,
gonna have
for wine?
breweries initial release. I don't know. I mean, I guess you
No,
have to.
fair.
Everything's going to take time to implement into the game, right?
And I
Well,
think that
and
there'll
it's,
be utility that'll come later too to just about everything. I think as the game expands and new content is available and new areas like you're just talking about, the new areas become available. Like maybe you can discover new recipes of crafting things that you know for materials you can only find in those areas. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I
with
think that
biomes.
the brewery will be, yeah, exactly. And the brewery would be no exception to that. As a matter of fact, I think like farming things would probably be more beneficial to that kind of thing because it's like I don't know, that's what you
Well,
find in a biome. A lot of things you can grow, right?
well, it would help with the essentials of with the farm itself, so every farm isn't competing with itself, because if different farms had different materials growing because of their biomes or even just the materials that they're able to collect in that space.
Yeah, but I also think it adds a lot of potential customization and specialization where you can tailor what whether you got a village of the farmer or a farming hamlet or just farm plots on whatever, where you can kind of tool it or grow the things that you want to support the things you're interested in. I mean, I think, Mirandus is one of those where whether you're a grinder with no money or you've got money to invest or whatever, anybody in between, there's really a place for everybody.
That's what makes it so cool too.
Exactly.
So as for ideas for what the brew can do for you, does anybody else have anything else different or any suggestions that'd be kind of cool? I wanted to.
I
I
mean,
only ask. 'Cause I
minus
want to post
10
up. I'm ready.
intelligence. I mean,
Amen.
like clearly, like minus 10 intelligence, right?
Yeah,
Like this
yeah, I
is
guess.
like there's like that's at a minimum. We could start there and build off.
That's actually a legit thing. Like, you trade this 25% health for like less. I don't know what intelligence would do yet, but yeah, that obviously makes sense. All
I
right.
mean,
Well,
make it so all of your spells cost more Materium to cast, right?
yeah, there you go. That would be it.
Or maybe you want to get your tank drunk because then the stamina goes up to 150% if they're really hammered and they're your tank. So you're just going to send them in blindly anyway, so you don't care.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah,
you
because he's not
consume
casting
then you
spells.
consume more Materium or
mean,
because you're dumber.
You cast
now,
your
right?
spell. You cast your spell before you drink it. Like you cast your spell as you go in, and then drink your mead as you enter the bathroom.
And then you just get dumber from there and more numb. All right. Let me throw up Abdu's suggestion right here. This is pretty old. You can see the date at the top though. But I thought it was like super cool, and it'd probably be like, I don't know, as Jason Hughes say, a tech lift, right? Because it adds like a huge component into what brews can do and drinking the brew. And it's like team bonding and camaraderie boost. So, quote, drinking with friends in a tavern to celebrate creates a bond with other players. The stronger the bond or camaraderie is with other players, the better the synergy is, and maybe you get a mini boost in some abilities when someone you have a strong bond with is in your party if you're going into a dungeon. I think this camaraderie bonding boosting would also be a nice add, since it would give drinking ale more of a purpose in the game, and the entire cycle of brewing ale and serving it would have a different purpose than healing like what food would do. Comrade bonds would be different levels with different players, so I can have a very strong bond with players, a weaker or a very strong bond with player A, a weaker bond with player B, and no bond at all with a random player I've never interacted with while drunk at a tavern. And he just goes on to say it's an idea. So it's like a reputation. You're having personal reputations with different players that add a bit of a buff. Whether it be a limited time or a permanent or whatever. I just thought it was like a really cool idea.
I mean, you could even expand that into the reputation with that particular tavern. Like you drink in there all the time, you're a local, and the more you drink from there, the more it tallies up some score, some reputation or rating.
Yeah, I mean, even playing the table games there, you could add that in there. But just
And the more people that come into the tavern on a regular basis for in itself, the tavern rating goes up, which then leads to more camaraderie from the patrons that are in there.
Right, even stronger buff.
thought,
it reminds me vaguely of another game called Valheim, where you have to get a resting bonus. You build a base or build a house, and the more comfortable you make it, the longer you get a resting bonus. You get and so it doesn't really interact with other players, but I think being able to make it like a mutual thing, or it makes it stronger if you do. Well, I don't know. And the resting buff just is like what we were describing. Basically, just increases your stamina regeneration.
I most liked it for the content, right? Because players just eat through content. So this is just a way for players, hey, let's go out. We'll drink this mead, or I don't know if you do it before or you do it after, but you go out together, do
all the
do
time, matey, all the time.
build your camaraderie or your reputation level with that player.
Well, and you're getting more value out of your time. I mean, that's the most valuable thing any of us have, to be able to say, me hanging out if the four of us are at the tavern playing Three-Eyed Snake, every Friday night for 6 months, that should be that would be really cool to reward it with that some synergy like that. And that was kind of like what I was saying earlier, that past the obvious synergy of, well, yeah, I got to grow stuff to make beer and I need the wood shop to make casks. This incorporates the beer, the casks, the brewery, the camaraderie, but without the player, none of it matters.
Yeah, I like how it makes you like kind of getting more in social involvement.
Yeah, need each other.
Yes, there you go.
Well, and that can be an extra buff to a Proud Hearth running a tavern. You know, the Proud Hearth may have a camaraderie bonus as well. The better they run the tavern, the more people that come, so if they come and maybe, you know, like a maitre d', they're going to come out and hang out at the table, and that gives you a little additional buff, maybe. Again, a reason for you to go to a certain tavern, possibly.
But also a tech lift. I'm not sure exactly the direction that they're going in this direction. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, if
maybe,
they
like,
implement
this
that.
is the time to suggest it, I suppose, when the fundamentals are being created. But I'm curious to see what the development team's opinion of what a brewery and its utilities should be.
Amen to
Yes,
that.
lots of unanswered questions for the development team.
Bastards.
That's why we pound out these suggestions, man. Just so you know, they got the ideas there. We just throw them at them, right?
Absolutely. And the cool thing is they're all listening. They're paying attention. They're interacting. Jason, Michael, every one of them, Manny, they're all interacting with us, and that's what makes this even more cool.
Yep, which is fantastic. All right, let's jump into the gamification of these buildings, right? All right, so gamification of the brewery. So you own a brewery. What kind of stuff are you going to want to do in there to produce this? So I was coming up with like brewing equipment. Like you got to craft this brewing equipment, right? And then you got to upgrade it to like upgrade the brews. Like, you know, the captain wants rum. So what's it take to like the brew rum? Can you do that in a small one? Or are you going to need a large brewery? And then how many brews can you make in one brewery? I like the idea of diversification. I talked about this when we did the potion. We went over the potion shops where not every building can make every potion. It's diversified. You got to select which potions you want to make. So it'd be like, what brews do you want to make? And, you know, what products are you going to put out rather than being able to put them all out? And then do you have to tear down your equipment? Like if you were brewing mead and you want to do rum, that requires different equipment. And then you set that up in your brewery and make that. So that's the idea I had for gamification, but I don't know if you guys had anything like, what do you expect to do when you have your brewery set up and you're producing brew? What's that look like?
I don't think it's going to be overly complicated. I mean, beer back in the 1400s was 4 max ingredients once they added hops in the open air vats. I kind of expect in my brewery to have maybe 1 or 2 small vats that I can start brewing in immediately. In an open air brewery, and possibly to upgrade to multiple vats to make more, or to increase the capacity, and possibly an area where I may not have, I guess, the store like you guys talked about with the potion shop, among other things, the different slots that you have to display your wares. You know, I think that's where the casks may come in, the storage there before transport to the taverns.
Yeah, I like the idea that based off of the size of the brewery, like or really any building, that you make it slower, or actually I'll frame it this way: the bigger your building, the faster you make it, and the more you can. So if we had like you know, the regular brewery, it's only going to be able to produce, you know, at this rate, and maybe as you upgrade it, you know, let's say hypothetically that there are, you know, 5 levels to every building that you can upgrade. And I think a level 5 10 by 10 brewery should be able to produce more than a level 1 large brewery. You see what I mean? Like it should and it should be like that, in my opinion, for all crafting buildings. Like a 5 by 5 level 5 should just barely be better production wise at full capacity than the 10 by 10 version that's level 1.
Yeah, I like the
That
idea
makes
of
sense.
just a gamification. Like, how do you engage with your building? And you know,
Mhm.
people want to that might be some people's whole game, right? They just like go out and farm some stuff, come back and engage with their building, and what kind of stuff, what kind of gamification's involved in that. And there's a lot of things in there, like economy sinks that you can do. Like I know McCarthy's not big on the timers. I'm big on timers. I think they're super important, but he's looking at
especially in
more on the
brewing. Like,
yeah.
what are you going to run in a maze while your meat is brewing? Like, it doesn't make sense. It's like
Well,
obviously. I mean, it's going to have to take some time for it to finish, right?
But it's got to
well,
be
are
quick
they?
enough so that you can produce enough for people to get their hot meals too. There's going to be a fine balance to figure out all this stuff.
Well, that's where the tuning comes in. Is what's
Yeah.
the capacity? I think because I do get what you guys are saying with the timer, but I do like that McCarthy says, look, you've worked your butt off, you've gotten all the ingredients to go make your beer, make your sword. I mean, with the beer, it's a little different because normally beer takes a little time, but beyond a short, reasonable time, it's like, no, I want my sword. I've already worked my butt off and got all my stuff. I kind
So
of
it'll
like
take
that
you a
about
month or
McCarthy.
more to make.
Yeah, it's and then like he said, I think it was like the last fireside chat or one of the few just recently. It's like what? Then I come back and I spend a day banging on my anvil to make my sword. I just spent 2 months gathering everything. That doesn't sound like fun. I don't know that every building will have gamification, at least initially.
My only
I
So
don't.
my
how
only
would you why would you need to take months to collect all your resources? That's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is operating your forge or your blacksmith shop. So your objective would only be to outsource the materials you need to do that. And if you're running a business, you're not running around to collect all that stuff in real life. You go and pay the wood guy to bring you the handle material. You pay the guy that collects the bones for the decorative stuff. Your ore and everything else is going to be mined by
and that's what
miners, and then it's not, that ore doesn't go to the blacksmith. The blacksmith picks up the ore after it's been smeltered and whatnot.
and that's where
I
I'm
didn't
at.
mean I didn't mean it in that way. I meant it just in the not me personally. Once the ingredients are collected for the sword, McCarthy's like, no, you're going to go and craft it, and bam, you've got your sword, and you take off. But I'm just saying that if you were an adventurer out trying to collect up all your resources to make your sword, it may
Well, I
take
think
you
an
2
adventurer
months.
is a different job than a crafter, right? Like we have different
Sure.
exemplars that are specializing in adventuring, and different crafters that are, or different exemplars that are specializing in crafting. And I think I agree with Wolf here that I think that you're going to need to kind of outsource in order to be the most effective.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you're going to be running around doing everything yourself.
I'm at where Wolf's at. Like that stuff's going to be abundant just from the people farming those resources. So you're just buying it, right? And then being able to craft it's just going to be instant. So you're instantly popping out the stuff.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. It wasn't.
I think that's
that
kind
I'm out
of an
getting
OP
everything.
benefit though, because like it takes a lot of time for the adventurer exemplars to go out and gather those materials. To your point, Leslie, but then the person who's crafting it gets to just pump out everything right away because I mean there should be some time sink and some gamification, I would say, in every building, including the brewery. But I think we shouldn't necessarily be expansive, and then maybe the larger the building, the more complicated the gamification should be.
And I think we'll learn all that in tuning as well. I mean, they're going to learn that
100%.
eventually, that we're going to farm all this stuff, and then we just these super powerful swords are just instamatically. Like I get that food should be like a really quick process, and you should be pumping out food, but
But you have to grow it,
swords.
so that's where the time comes from, right? Like unless things are going to grow instantly, like
Yep.
because you have those two different types of, because a base, when you're not an adventurer, you could be a farmer slash crafter, right? Because you go out and you could farm your own plots and then bring them to your granary or whatever you're doing there. But like I don't know, I think that there are going to be different benefits based off of the type of exemplar you are and where you're going with that. So.
Yeah, we'll just say those economic levers are all going to be based in the raw resources, right?
Yeah, and that's where they can tune like what the maximum output is of a plot, a farming plot or a ranching plot. And they can tune that based on what they believe the maximum. It's like with the horses. Depending on how many they think we need at launch, the few that have been sold are going to have to account for those because that's what's out there. There's nothing else out there. So, like like Cap said earlier, with the stable game. I think it'll come sooner rather than later, because the economy stinks, and other reasons. Just not as many horses as they thought have sold.
So, I mean, not to sidetrack onto stables, but if they're going to start the mini game before the game, like you can create horses that are not NFTs that, like, I don't understand. I don't understand what that. I guess you can generate copper in the tavern games, which isn't an NFT either. So, I don't know. I'm just mumbling. Where's my room?
I assume the horses will be NFTs, the breedable ones. They can die, which means they get burnt. So NFTs do get burnt. I mean,
Well,
they said like individual pieces of wood aren't an NFT, but a bundle of wood becomes an NFT, and then you can burn that bundle of wood to consume.
Yeah,
it.
but you burn it. You burn it when you want to. Like the idea that the game can come in without you doing a check and burn one of your NFTs. I'm not sure if that's where we're at, right? Like
Well,
if you
no,
have a
but
horse,
it could be like Lost Relics, and you could have NFTs and virtual items. So I mean, we
and
don't
that's what I'm
yet
saying.
know.
Like if you have a virtual item as a virtual horse, right? That's not quite an NFT. It's just a like a regular Web 2 game digital item.
Yeah, I'd say it's like a database item, but if you decide you can mint that and then sell that after you mint it, maybe it
Yes,
takes out
exactly.
an item, but yeah.
Mm.
It's complicating, right?
But
Mhm.
so back to brewery. Which do you guys think would be the best exemplar to work in the brewery? The Proud Hearth?
Probably, but that's
Yeah. Proud
that's
Hearth,
really
the true provider is like farming, right? And farming and ranching. So I think that's going to be more specific to this actual farming and ranching plots rather than any specific building. So besides that, a crafter, I mean, um,
What was it,
remind
strong
me, what is the
hands?
strong hands?
Yeah,
Yeah, I was
he's
going to say strong hands.
all crafting. He's a
Yeah,
dwarf
the
too.
strong hands.
Dwarfs like mead, right? Ale.
And maybe the strong hand is sufficient to work in the brewery, or gives you a little buff from just, a normal, maybe a pit fighter. Pit fighter can go make beer if you have a brewery. If you have a strong hand, they get a small buff to it. And
What is
maybe
that?
if you have a Proud Hearth, they get even more of a buff to it.
Is that buff to
I would
crafting
like to.
time?
I would
Say
like
that
to make
again?
a
Was that
correction.
buff to crafting time?
Yeah, maybe crafting time. Yeah.
I would.
Or
I want to
not,
correct the record here.
or higher
Yeah,
level recipes.
strong hand is a human, not a dwarf. By the way.
You're right. Dang, duh.
do any of these.
I mean, not that
breweries have
humans
any
don't like to
effect on
drink. I'm a
horse?
pirate, so I could attest to that. Yeah.
What was that, Wolf?
I was asking if any of these brewers have any effect on like the horses, because like I know I don't drink, but when I head down to one of my friends that lives over the hill from me, and I take my horse over there, he always gives my horse beer. My horse is like addicted to that stuff.
Like for real?
Yeah,
Addicted
like for
substance.
real, he'll do 3 bottles easily.
That's
Wow.
Well,
funny.
maybe you can have magic brew to feed to your horse.
Maybe
to
you just
give
grib
them
the brew the
extra
horse.
stamina.
Yeah. Note taken. So location for a brewery, what's the ideal situation? And I always think of like when these locations, I think like Town Star, because you want everything to be as close as possible. But like, where do you think a brewery best sits?
In the background.
Think it'll need a granary? You think that like hops will be stored somewhere? Like maybe you don't have a large storage capacity in a brewery for hops, so you would need maybe some granary or something to hold, all the raw plant material.
Absolutely, it
Yep.
would need
Yep,
it.
absolutely.
The store. So your granary is going to be the front end of the brewery, and your storehouse is going to be the back end of the brewery.
The storehouse / tavern, if you have tavern, I imagine.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So yeah,
Well, but
even a
you're gonna,
storehouse or brewery.
but you're gonna need a grain stand or a mill as well, because if you're gonna make the beer, you got to grind your grain.
Right.
So
Yeah.
maybe
Or process your molasses. Or
so maybe
whatever.
you're wanting this on a farming deed, perhaps.
I think a farming deed to support a tavern as a brewery is a perfect mesh. Absolutely.
Well, there you go. There's a build for Maybe a farming hamlet or a village of the farmer, maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
There's
well,
a
I
build
think
there for that.
a village of the farmer, you could make it part of that build, and still have room, I think, for other things. I think you could definitely pull something like this off to be a supplier to 2, 3 taverns as a brewer on a farming hamlet. Absolutely.
You might be able to do it with perhaps like 2 outposts. If you combine 2 outposts, you'll have 2 10x10s, and that could be a tavern and a brewery. And then the 5x5s could be your storage.
This is
You
what
might
we-
even
simple
be able to
storehouse.
pull it off. You might even
Simple
be able to
granary.
pull it off with an outpost and a homestead.
Right.
Yeah.
I was thinking because you only have 1 10x10 with that though, so
But
that
there's
you
your
won't be able
brewery.
to supply. Right, exactly. But you wouldn't be able to supply your own. Like you could as long as you're trading, as long as you have trade partners, then you'd be fine there. But if you were trying to do like an entire closed loop of your logistics, then you'd need to be able to consume what you're producing, and that would be through the tavern, right?
Keyword
Right.
there is logistics.
Oh, definitely.
So yeah. So I think I think at a minimum, in order to make it closed, so you don't have to rely on anybody else, would be 2 outposts. I think that's the smallest you can get.
Well, and to go a little next level with this stuff too, I think depending on like what you guys just said with logistics, these are going to be moving casks. So is this going to involve draft animals and carts or wagons?
And wood shops.
And wood shops for all those, and stables for the horses, or the ranching hamlets with the barns for the if we have draft animals that
You're
I
gonna
would
need
assume are
blacksmiths as well
slower.
for all that stuff.
Hey,
Yeah,
simmer
the
down.
more
that
you
Newtown.
add to your logistical system, the more efficient it'll become. So maybe you don't need a horse because you're hauling the cart yourself, and you're just not as fast, and you can't place the outposts right next to each other. They have their little spots that they have to go to, but they're relatively close. But upgrading from a hand cart like wheelbarrow in your shit from one place to another to having a horse do it would be just it wouldn't change the profit per thing that you make. It would just change the amount of time it takes you to do that. So it's just the increase of efficiency.
Well, it would increase the profit you make as well, because if you got
100%. Well,
now you can
meant
drag a
per
lot more
item,
weight.
though. Right.
Well, and therein lies some of the potential gamification with the brewery. You have to. It kind of. It's not all contained within the brewery, but
That's
if you
true.
own a brewery and
Yeah.
are a brewer, it's like, well, if I want to be
Big
more
ass heavy
efficient,
barrels.
yeah, I
Mhm.
got to get me a horse or a draft animal and start with a cart and work myself up to a draft animal pulled cart or a horse pulled cart, and maybe I can work myself up to a wagon, and then work myself up to that what you were saying, Cap, a level 5 10x10 brewery where maybe I'm supplying beer to 5, 6, 7 taverns.
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah, and that beginning stages of it though, like you have your 2 open air vats and 1 cart maybe, but like, or maybe not even a cart. You don't have anything, right? You just put down your brewery in 2 open air vats, and you can carry exactly 1 barrel on your persons,
Yeah.
and so
Oh my
if you're
God.
so like, I mean, it could start pretty rough, I imagine. So unless
Yeah,
you got a team
befriend,
of people ready to carry.
well, befriend a handful of conveyors, and
Yeah.
they'll help you out.
So they can carry 2, 1 on
Yeah.
each shoulder. But like the horse-drawn cart or a ship or something like that might be able to do much more.
Oh, much more. All right. Well, we could probably just go on forever on this stuff, but pertaining to the building itself, is there any final thoughts?
I just with the kind of here at the end when we were talking about the carts and stuff, I think that might be a decent overreaching system to help gamify a lot of the buildings. There's a lot of things that you're going to need logistics wise, and to complement whatever if you're got a stand in an Exemplar doing your own thing, or you're running a ranching hamlet or farming hamlet. Yeah, it's this is some cool stuff.
Very in depth. Cap, Wolfie, any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
I'm gonna be planking every one of the developers if I don't get my rum. I mean, to me, it's just a point. It's a it just needs to happen. And like I've been complaining, or I've been suggesting. I mean, since as early in the development as I have. If it's not there, then it's a direct attack to me, and I'll respond accordingly.
You know
Hey,
what?
man,
I
hey,
just
wine
assume
too,
him.
man. There's some wine
I
in there.
just I just assume him go attack the devs, then he leaves us damn elves alone.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Mhm. Well, I don't know about all that, but I need something to step on the way there.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up there. Yeah.
Well,
we'll just-
thanks for having me on there.
Yeah, it's
I
always
appreciate
great
it.
to have you
Anytime.
guys on. Love having different community
Mhm.
members on just to fucking shoot the shit on these things and throw out these
Oh, this
suggestions.
Listen, I'm honored that you guys reached out. Thank you. This is fun. This is cool. This is my first time, so this is.
Hey,
Oh
anytime.
no!
brother.
Hey, hit me up. I'm happy to do this. Anything to support the community. Anything to further fun. I am all about that. So.
Yep, that's what it's about. I want everybody's ideas. Like McCarthy said, we're trying to make the best game ever here. At least for an MMO,
Absolutely.
fantasy, whatever. But
I mean, and it's like I was saying, my type A personality. It's funny. I'll be 54 in about a week, and I grew up playing Diablo. I've literally played Diablo since it came out, and when I came across Mirandus, I looked at that and said, "This is Tristram. I can buy a town and run Tristram." And that's what I want to do. I bought a Village of the Earl. I feel so lucky to have been able to do that, and I get to run Tristram and hang out in the tavern and go, okay, Cap, okay, how many elves did you kick? How many elves walked the plank this weekend? What all kind of shit did you get into?
All of them.
That's gonna be
Yeah.
so cool.
you need to build a community around that deed, man.
Oh, we
Have actually.
We are.
Both of us. Both
We
of us
are.
have. I would say I don't want to speak for you there, Lance, but your deeds are a part of the Everglen, and the Everglen is
Yes.
a bigger guild than just either one of us. So
Yeah, no, it
did not
is,
know that.
and I try to be fair. I'm a moderator, so I don't want to advertise one or the other, and you'll never catch me talking about Everglen when I'm doing my moderating thing. I'm a rules guy. I was a cop. I'm a rules guy, so no, I won't ever do that. But I'm
I'm a pirate.
I
Rule.
found it took a while. It took a while. Me and the worst waifu, Rainbow Unicorn, are partners, and we were going to do our own thing, and we found Cap and Cal Elf, and the group at Everglen, and these are like-minded people. These are my people. Cap is my people. He's my family now.
Yeah.
So we are building something special. I think, as a lot of people are. I think something special like Gala, and especially Mirandus and McCarthy, brings out the best in people.
Amen,
Keep
brother.
the elves around because I like the sounds they make when I step on them.
You're surrounded by them, dude.
Make no mistake.
And I'll promise you this. I can promise you this, and this isn't a plug. This is just this is my goal. I know there's a lot of guilds out there and a lot of promises. And Cap can back me up on this. No one will have more fun than us in Everglen and those that want to play with us. And everybody's welcome. I mean, that's the thing. We're not. This isn't an exclusive thing. It's an inclusive thing, and we're gonna do all kinds of fun shit. So, yeah.
This is what we're going to be doing.
Be special and fun. And
I'll
For
make sure I
the
make.
people at the bottom, the people that don't have as many assets. Maybe you just have an exemplar. Maybe you.
But
you
for
don't have
everybody.
anything. But for everybody.
But-
for everybody.
yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and Zana, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I've got Mirandus is my biggest bag, and at current prices, with
Mine
my
too, brother.
Vox, with my Vox, I'm probably sitting on between $500,000 and $600,000 worth of stuff. I've got some significant stuff, but
They pay cops too much.
But I know that. No, listen, I emptied. I retired. I retired, and I got lucky at my timing. I emptied my 401k into crypto, and 95% of it migrated to Connect United stuff and Gala. So I'm into Switch and Green and some of that stuff as well. But it's almost all primarily Gala. But what I was going to say is, don't get me wrong, Wolf, you too. These are investments for us, and we know that. But I know this. If McCarthy comes even halfway close to hitting his vision, this is going to be hella fun, and the money is going to be the easy part. The money's going to take care of itself. I don't have any worry about the money, because if we don't hit the fun, we're all broke.
Right.
Always, yep. It's always about the quality of the game. I'm in it for the game. I
I
literally,
am too.
I literally bought my village just like I want to buy this just to buy it because I want it. Like there was like
I'm in
no
it for the
thought process
piracy.
of like making money. I'm like, that's kind of cool that I could, but I'm just like, this is what I've been looking for. Like I've been playing all these like games and I jumped into crypto and then I'm like, this would be cool if they had crypto games. And then it was all the talk like way back in the day, like 2014 about this technology is perfect for gaming. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like playing these Bitcoin Alien. It was like called Bitcoin Alien. I played these and they're like dumb Atari games. I'm like, these are stupid. Where's the WoW blockchain game? Where's the fucking kick ass? And it took forever. I did research and found, I say this numerous times, Ember Sword or Mirandus. And I chose Mirandus. And I'm just like still here waiting like 2.5 years later for Mirandus, but I'm so excited for it. And I see all these other games come out and I'm just like, God, I hope Gala and Mirandus doesn't turn out to be shit like these fucking games, these blockchain games people are putting out, which are still cool that they're putting out like Axie and all that. And not to knock on Axie, but they're not fun to me, right? I want to play a sick MMO. And this is turning out to what I thought it to be.
Well, but like you said too, I mean, these great games and MMOs take time, and
it should.
This
should take 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, well, but see, that's the thing.
disagree.
McCarthy's been working on this for God knows how long. I mean, this is his requiem. This is his great masterpiece. This is his dream. And I mean, when I looked at all this stuff, and I was been into Axie, Wax, Star Atlas, Tesotopia, a bunch of other crap too, but you look across the board, and other than maybe Dr. Quigley over at Wax, there is no team out there that has more real goddamn experience in the tech sector than Eric and McCarthy and their team. Period.
Dude, Jason Hughes, man, what a pickup, man.
Yep.
Well, yeah,
all the guys
and John Oswald. I mean, people forget. I mean, we had all this news here recently. I was lucky; I got to go to Galaverse here in Vegas, and because I was there with my 13-year-old son, I had to be in the kiddie room. Well, when we were up in the kiddie room, entire game media guys were up there because Mina, one of their devs, is 20 years old and he couldn't go down into the club where everybody else is. So I got to hang out with the game media guys, and Oswald comes up and I got to spend 40 minutes with Oswald. I mean, they stole him away from EA. He was the president of mobile gaming operations at EA, and now he holds that same position here. And what did Benefactor just say? We just bought a mobile game studio, with 20 million users and 15 damn games. I mean, Zynga was built on mobile games, so they know how to bring the people in, and a lot of the other projects just don't because they've never done it. Eric was part of building a $12 billion company in Zynga. I mean, that's who else can say that in crypto? Who else is out there that's done this?
Right.
He's done it. This is the third time. Well, this is the third time he's done it.
And the closest run with them.
Yeah, but they still never done it. It's
And-
not a six.
yeah.
The guys in charge have never built something like this. And don't get me wrong, I've got probably 10, 15 grand in spaceships. So I like it. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's one game. It's one game.
But it's very grand. It's very yeah, it's very grandiose. And I'm in. Like I said, I bought in.
I'm in too. Yep.
Well,
Although I'm
touch
excited
back
to
on-
play the most. I'm sorry. I'm excited to play the most Mirandus.
Yep.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
yeah,
me
100%.
too.
I do want to touch back on something that you said, Zana. That you said you gave a time frame for a full release, like 5 years. I think once the switch is flipped,
From beginning,
That'll be
from
the game.
2020. Like,
well, and I don't think it should ever be done. Like all the games that I play now that are my favorite games, the development team is just working on them forever.
oh yeah, no, I meant playable. I mean, this game will be built.
You want it
built
playable in
forever,
5 years?
Ever. Starting from 2020, like something where 2020, right? 5 years later, 2025, right? We have something awesome and playable. I mean, we got to go through a beta first, and I think we'll land somewhere close to that. Maybe mid 2024 is when we'll be out of beta.
I reject the beta and the alpha and the full release.
That's
like,
the tuning.
terminologies even
That's
now.
the tuning.
Like it's right, and it's milestones of the development too. It's where
Well,
they
it's-
expect to be at certain times.
And it's just semantics. It's when they hit
Right.
this goal. It's when the tavern games are ready, we get to play them. When the
Right.
next play test is ready, whenever, and I get it. It's like, no, we all want a date. Come on, tell us when. I mean, I'm already excited about The Walking Dead at the end of this month. I get to play The Walking Dead again. They've got it on the calendar. So we don't have to ask when, but it's like, if that date comes and it doesn't go live, we're going to be pissed. Michael knows that. So, I mean, it's semantics to say beta, alpha, test, etc. Except that I do say with beta, at least with Gala and Zana, I think this is where you and I agree 100%. That's when it's live, and by live I mean earning.
Yes.
For me, live is I'm earning rewards by playing.
It doesn't come down. It's up forever.
I don't care what you call it.
I agree with
can
that.
call it
I agree
alpha,
with that.
flip the switch, and again, different people have different different definitions in their head when you say certain things. I think we're all saying the same thing.
You
but
said
I
Mirandus's development started in 2020?
think it started before then. May have been
Probably.
17, 18 because they had some early meetings.
Well,
in
shit, now we're in
Wyoming.
time.
If we get it the way we want, and Cap will assert this too, if we can get at least 1 10x10 on a key, Cap will be living in a key in a crazy lighthouse with his own tavern to play with, and we will be having all kinds of fun there.
Hopefully there's 2 10x10s. That way I could have a storehouse as well.
Yeah.
To offload and onload.
All right. Well, I'll make sure I drop a link to Everglenn's Discord in this podcast. Mirandus,
I appreciate that.
Mirandus Farmers. I throw all that stuff in there. I want all these deed owners and communities just to have their own spots.
In the right places.
Yeah, man. Just, logistics. It comes down to logistics, communication. Lance, I think you should start a community with your Earl, man. I mean, eventually at some point, it's just
it's gonna be its own city per se, but we're working out the exact logistics of just as you said, like with the complementary deeds. It's like how do we best deploy those? How do we do that in the smart best way to, like you guys said, with logistics of transportation from point A to point B, but also with the synergistic bonuses that we'll get from the needs and the things that we can't see, like the potential with the beer. Kind of cool.
Amen.
Well, Lance, you have a name for your Earl, don't you?
Ooh, what's the name?
Not yet. I've got to secure everything yet. Maybe on a future podcast. Maybe a future podcast.
Yeah.
But
pull it out of them yet.
I'll share with you guys, but don't put it on the podcast if that's okay.
I will. But don't say it now. Don't say it now. If you are,
I'll hold it. But it's fun. I mean, listen. I think you guys are probably. I would be shocked if you guys weren't thinking about a lot of the same stuff that Kat, me, and Kyle and Everglen are thinking about with, be it marketing to get people to come and interact and have fun. And that's why I know with us and there's other people going to be just like us. It's focused on the fun.
Yeah.
The other stuff will come if you're having fun. I mean, life's too serious and everything else. So it's just about hanging out and enjoying the people like we are right now.
Yep, that's what it is about. So wait, if you ever do go public, let me know. I'll put a link for it in the Farmers Discord.
It will be a
there
part of
too. So if you guys ever want to look for Everglen, just go to the Farmers Discord.
Well, it will be.
Man, it's in there.
Yeah, it will be part of Everglen. That is 100%, and you can publish that.
So I'm not in the council there. Everglen is like is a guild itself rather than just the community deed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
It's a community of deeds.
Gotcha. All right, cool. All right, well, man, this is the longest episode I ever did. We're at an hour, so cool.
Well, it's because Lance is so damn long-winded.
He did say he's a talker.
Apologies.
Man, if we had an observer in here too, man, I know he's got a brewery, man. This would have been 2 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Cool. Right on.
All right, brothers. All right. Thanks, guys, for hanging out.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
All right. Till the next time. Peace.
Anytime. Take care.